Hi guys, Nat here. Over the weekend, might have been last weekend, can't remember, sorry. We did a class at Harvey and Fyshwick. So as a Cricut ambassador, I run classes and things like that. And we did an Easter explosion box. So we used the explosion box template. It opened up and everything looked very pretty. Some of the people who came to the class had a Cricut Joy and they wanted to be able to make things like this on the Cricut Joy. So I said, give me a little bit and I'll try and figure something out and see if we can't make a very simple Easter explosion box. And that's what I ended up doing. So this one is made, and it's quite large. So if we have a look on there, it's, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. That's a pretty decent size. So this is at the maximum that the Cricut Joy can cut. So I made it really big, and then for this one that I'm going to show you now, I've actually made it down to a more reasonable size. This one holds a fair few eggs. So when we open it up, it's slightly different to the one we made in class, whereas the one we made in class had cut out bits of grass where we're doing fringing for the grass on this one. And the reason for that is that a few of the people that were doing the class that had the Joys don't have Cricut access. So I wanted to be able to make something that they'd be able to make at home without having the Cricut access. So just by using the free images that are in Cricut Design Space. So that included cuts, so we can do straight cuts, which is where we've got the fringing, simple eggs with the dots, although for the one I'm making today I'm using just pattern paper because it's a pretty pattern on it. It's got a silver foil on a pattern, although I'm not sure you can see that with the camera, but the file that I made originally, which is uploaded and the link is in the description, I've done like just a standard colour and then I put a bit of vinyl on top of it. So in the file you'll see the dots for the vinyl on this one and then a standard egg. But if you just want to do it out of pattern paper, by all means go have a look at your pattern paper and use up some of those scraps. It didn't use a very big piece of the pattern paper at all. I had, I could have gotten loads of eggs onto one sheet. Okay, so the other thing that I did to change all this about was the rabbit. It's not the same rabbit that we used in class because this one's the free rabbit, and I just took his little tail and made them out of cardstock. But if you've got any leftover Cricut Smart paper cardstock, by all means feel free to go ahead, and don't forget that you can change these. You don't have to have these eggs and you don't have to have this rabbit. Maybe if you're doing it as a any sort of theme, you can change this from being grass to not being grass. So when you're in the file, get rid of the cut lines that make the fringing, so then you can make it maybe a wedding style or something like that. Okie dokie. So one of the big things that we came across when I was looking at making this into a Joy box was the Joy doesn't do scoring. So to get around the scoring, what I did was I put little lines, and we're going to do the scoring ourselves outside of the machine. So this is parts for the lid, just in case you're interested, because I'm making a few of these and I'm doing them as samples. What I actually used here was the protective film off the top of the mats. So when the mats are too grubby and I can't clean them anymore, and then I turn them into stencils or whatever I turn them into. Sometimes I just use them for felt until they can't hold felt anymore. But once the protective layer won't stick anymore, I cut that up and I use it for my things like windows and cards, and I use it for little practice pieces when I'm doing practice bits like this box. Yeah, okay, back to the scoring. So you'll see that these bits on the lid and these bits on the bottom of the box. So for me, the outer box will be blue, or this tealy blue. I've got these two lines drawn. So I'm just going to pull my ruler against the lines, and with the back of my weeding tool, I'm going to draw a line straight down there. So where else are we finding scoring? So we've got these 4 for this box, these 4 for the lid, and then we've got several for the grass pieces. So for this one, we go across here and then down here as well. Okay, where else is some of the scoring pieces? And then for the scoring, we're going to go straight down here for our fringed grass flap layer. Okay, so it's a workaround, and of course there's lots of people that have different workarounds, and you might find a different one that works for you. But this one I think works rather easy. The little pens, they last ages and ages, and of course when they start to run out you can still use them so long as you can see this score line. it doesn't matter. And at the moment, because the pen is rather new, I got it, I think they're on sale at the moment, over at, oh gosh, I think I got them, it wasn't very much, they were definitely on sale. Yeah. So what I'm doing to hide my lines is I'm actually going to have that on the inside so that it's not on the outside of my box. So when I cut on my Cricut, on the little Joy, I had my textured side down on the mat so that I didn't have, so I'd be drawing on the back of the cardstock. So if you've got coloured cardstock on one side and white on the other, that's a lot easier to see which is the right side and which is the wrong side. But with this textured cardstock that I'm using from Kaisercraft, it's very obvious when you hold up the piece of paper, and on the other side it's quite smooth and this side it's quite textured. Kmart cardstock has the same sort of texture on one side, no texture on the other side. American Crafts, I think they're the same. I can't remember, it's been a little while since I've used those. In any case, I'm going to continue scoring all of these. So I'm just using my ruler and the back of my weeding tool. Then the reason I'm using the back of my weeding tool instead of using my scraper is because the plastic scraper, it's got some vinyl on it, because the plastic scraper is plastic, you can sort of see, let's get it on here and you can see a little bit better maybe. There's like a little divot already out of mine, and this is from me, oh gosh, I can't even remember what I did to get that little divot in there. It's just a little divot, but it's enough that I'm like, oh, that doesn't have long use if I'm using it against a ruler and things like that. Whereas the metal against the metal ruler, I'm not going to have any problems with that wearing down. Okay. So at the moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue scoring along all these pieces with my ruler, and then we're going to come back and do some gluing. So I'm going to speed up the camera and I'll be back once I've done all the scoring. Okie dokie. So everything's been scored, and now what I can do is I can just come along and run my finger across it. So the score line is actually quite deep with not very much pressure at all. You can obviously put more pressure if you're needing to, but and I know some people have like paper crafters will have like a special scoring, like they call them a bone score. But I generally just use the back of my weeding tool because it's right there. I don't have to run around finding it. So I'm just going to reinforce the scoring by actually folding over the score lines, and then we'll be back because I'll speed this up as well. Okay, so now that they're all scored, we can start with the lid. You can start with any that you like once you've got a bit of an idea of how it goes together. Of course, you don't have to definitely start with the lid. I'm just going to start with the lid. Now, when you put these together, the centre shape that I've cut out here, it's going to be the same on both sides, but one of the pieces will be a mil shorter, so 1 millimetre shorter than the other, and that's to take into account we're going to glue our pieces to the larger one, and then we'll hide our tabs with this top one. And because we've also got the acetate, if you're using acetate, or the protective matting, what do they call it, cutting mat protector sheet. So that's the name of the setting in Cricut Design Space. So if you go to your materials and then you look up cutting mat, the cutting mat protective film, that's this one here, and it cuts rather nicely. Only I had mine all crinkly, so I had to it didn't cut one end because it was a bit it lifted off the mat, and I was using a light red mat here. I'll just trim that just to make sure that it fits nice. If they've been sort of battered around, they get these little crinkles in them. I don't know if you can see where it's sort of, and it if it's not flush on the light blue mat, it's not sticky enough for it to hold down. That'll be good. Okay, so we're going to grab the tabs and we're going to take our glue. I'm just using, I'm actually using Yoo-Hoo craft glue. I quite like this glue. I had been using Aleen's Tacky glue for ages and I couldn't find it, and somebody said you should try this glue. And I've been quite happy with it. Okay, so I'm just going to take this tab and stick it right against here, line it, keeping the side tab out, so we don't want that to be caught up. And then I'm using clips just so that I can go a little bit faster for the video. So I'll use some little clips just to hold down one side while I do the next. Okay, so long as our side tab, this tab, all goes the same way around the square, so it shouldn't go any other way unless you put the score line on the wrong side. Just double check, and all of your little tab pieces will all go around the same way, so that you don't have any. That's what's going to hold the little box together, those little side tabs. Okay. Now the tabs on the lid are a little bit smaller than the tabs on the box part, only because I needed to make space so that the tab didn't come over and didn't encroach on that space there. So it is a little bit smaller than the tabs on the rest of the box. So now that tab's on there and we've got that little space there for a little window to not be encroached on. Okay, get the next one going. I like to use these little quilting clips when I'm quilting. It just gives me an extra hand to hold things. This glue doesn't take long to dry. So now that's all right there, it's glued. We're waiting for those tabs to dry. I'm going to just put some glue in here. And just to add some weight, I'm going to put these little guys in here just to add weight to that, and we can have a look. Let's do the bunny while we wait for that to cool. So the bunny tail is just nice and easy. Just glue the little bit on. If you're using the Smart Sticker cardstock, you don't need to worry about glue because your white pieces will already be sticky on one side. There we go. So wait for those to dry. Alright. So I've got those waiting. Let's do the outer box next. Now, the outer box has 4 sides. So there'll be the bits with the scoring lines on them, or the bits with score, and then it has a base and a piece to hide the tabs. So again, line up your pieces, making sure you've got them the right sides together. Okay. And one of your pieces will be 1mm smaller than the other. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but this one here is smaller. So I'm going to put that to the side because that's the bit we use to hide our tabs. Now, I'm going to have the textured side out because I've got the textured side out here, and I'm going to glue my tabs one to each side here. Now the only thing I will say is when I glued my original one, I accidentally got carried away and I ended up starting to glue my pieces around one of the flaps rather than around the base of the box, which resulted in one side of my box, one of the walls being a good ½ centimetre shorter than the rest, but it was hidden in the box lid. Just be mindful that you want to be gluing onto your solid square, not onto any that have tabs onto them. after I gave everybody the warning not to do it, I did it again. And I've put all of my tabs on the same box with the tabs. So now when I go up, because I have lowered, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Oh, it's not so bad because I made the box a little bit smaller. Maybe it's not too bad. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that again. Boggles my mind. One little ball is slightly smaller, but not by much, because I did downsize from the size of the box. So we are making a bit of a smaller box in comparison to this box, so it is a bit smaller. So maybe the ratios there have helped me out a little. Gosh, I can't believe I did it again. Let's make sure our lid fits. Nice. Pop these bits to the side for a moment and we'll work on the grass flap layer. So this is the layer where the grass falls away, not the layer that makes the box. So the difference will be this one here is for the box. These ones don't have the tabs on the side, so they're for the flap layer. These ones here are definitely for the box because they've got the little tabs there. So when we're looking at our pieces, which once you've cut them out, you'll probably be like, oh gosh, all 4 of them. There's 4 of them. How will I know which one's which? The box is significantly smaller than this one. So the outer layer, the grass flaps layer, as it's called in the Design Space, it will be for this one. And just to double check, you can have a look and make sure your tabs are going to be the same size, so that your tabs line up with the piece of your cardstock. Whereas these two are significantly smaller. It's smaller than the other, so the smaller than the other goes to cover up our tabs. So that one will cover up our tabs, and then this one will glue the flaps down here, and that's the right size. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll glue those flaps down as well, and then we'll be back. I'll speed up the camera again. Okay, now all the tabs are glued, I'm going to take the layer for covering up the tabs and put that down as well. This will help cover up some of our marks as well. Okay. Turn that over and just put the handles. Take these ones off. And just while we've got easier access to it, I'm going to pop the layer on this one as well. Okay, so now that that bit's been done, what we can do is put the tabs for the grass box together. If we want to pop those to the side and then put something heavy on them until they're well and truly dried, we can move on to the pattern pieces for this and popping in our layer for this one as well. So now we have our outer layer done, and I have had to hide my little bit where I did that wrong, but that's okay. Now this bit is done, and we can pop that aside for a second as well, and we can move on to the box. And I just added the glue to the tabs, and then hold those for a moment just so that they grip. Okay, so now the box is made, what we can do is we can leave that to dry just for a moment because we don't want to put any pressure on that glue tab while it's still a little bit tacky, and we can move on to this layer and do our fringing. So the reason I popped all these lines here to look like grass is so that we can take our scraper tool or even like the edge of our weeding tool and just come in and scrape against those fringes to bring them out a little bit, or in, you choose, whichever's some in, some out. Grass is always a bit scruffy looking, and I think that looks pretty reasonable for grass. You can even really manipulate them with your fingers. The more you scrape your scraper or your weeder tool against them, the looser the fibres in the paper will become, and the more malleable and pliable the textured fibres will become. So if I kept doing this backwards and forwards several times, it would become very loose, very manipulable. So you'd be able to do all sorts of things with them, even if you wanted to just crumple them up with your fingers. So go ahead and do that on all 4 sides. By the time we've done that, we'll be able to do the ones on the boxes as well. I'll speed up while I'm doing that and we'll meet you again. Okie dokie, so I've ruffled those up a bit, and in the end it was actually faster for me to do a little bit of a twist with this, and I think that looks alright for grass. So what happens now is we grab our base piece and we're going to glue the flaps down to the face. The base will become quite a sturdy piece because of all the cardstock that's going to lay it up. Lay it about as centered as you can. Now you can choose to put your bunny either in here or back here, on this flap here if you like, or over here, or even on the front of the box, or your little egg. I might put my egg there just while I'm holding this. And yeah, I might put my bunnies on either side here. There's one. Got loads of bunnies on my desk at the moment. I'm working on projects that we're going to do for the Make and Take over at Harvey Norman on the 25th. I believe it's the 25th. Yes, Saturday the 25th we're doing a Make and Take. I think I'm going to go with this bunny just because it'll be a lot easier and a lot less different layers to glue than this bunny. But both are in my projects. If you have a look in my projects on my profile, you'll find both of those there as well. Sorry, I took a little bit of a tangent there, didn't I? Sorry. Okay, and I'll do this one. Okay. Next up is to glue the box, the bottom of the box. Actually, we were thinking we might do an iron-on as well, like an iron-on bunny onto a little tote bag, a little gift bag, a little Easter egg hunting bag or something. And then have a little box that you can put clues, or I've done it in light cardstock. Actually, it's more like thick paper, but it was just for the idea. This is in Cricut Design Space already. The only thing I did to change this one was I changed the mouth and the eyes to be vinyl and the whiskers to be drawn on, and then I just used the button nose and the ears as the smart sticker cardstock. twisted it while talking. Oh, particles. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so now we can try a little lid, see how it looks when we open it up. A little bit on. Just be mindful, if some of your grass is too pushing out, it may be too much pressure on the lid to go on proper, but yeah, no, mine's okay, so you get away with a bit, and then when you open it up, the little arms should all fall apart. So I might need to do some opening and closing on this one, just so that it opens and closes nicely and falls out. And then we can pop some eggs in. Put some of these big ones in. Gosh, I'm still going to hold a fair few eggs in here. And some little eggs. Oh gosh, I got just as many eggs in that one as I did in the big one. But the big one, it is, yeah, a bit bigger, much bigger. Here we go. And then, let's see. Open that again for our little surprise. There we go. Almost the bunny. I need to work on the bunny arm a little bit. Now, you can dress this up any which way you like. You could add in some little pockets here to put a gift tag or a gift card in if you're sending it away. But there we go, a little Easter box. A little bit different in as much as we don't have the same grass up the top, but otherwise it's fairly similar with the exception of, you know, different shaped egg, different shaped bunny. Otherwise it's almost the same. Okay, have a lovely afternoon, guys. Enjoy. Bye.